Hi there, it's Peter here. Today I'm going to talk about black and white photography. Let's get right into the business. Pre-visualize in black and white. When you take out the color, it might be really hard to see in advance how the image will look. When there's no color, we need to look at shapes, contrast, and different lines and light and shadow. And I will talk about those in this video quite a bit. But the pre-visualizing is something that you learn when you start taking more and more black and white images. And if you haven't done that before, then just go to your archives and just start playing around with your old images, color images, and turn them into black and white and see what works and what does not work. That's a good way to learn how to pre-visualize. And then there's also another way of pre-visualizing while taking the images, and I will talk about that later, like I will talk about all the other elements also. And number 2, contrast. Since we don't have colors or color contrast, we need to look at other type of contrast, and that is then between black and white. And of course there are a lot of shades of gray between. And since we don't have the colors to work with, we can have an image like this, like the bike here. There is a lot of dark shades of gray and black, and then there is the pure white, the snow, that is the snow on the bike. And that makes the image interesting because we tend to see the lighter part of the image first, and then we start seeing other things. So that will catch our eye because there is a very high contrast. And then on overcast weather like this, you might have an image with very little contrast, only really bright tones of the grayscale, which then the image will be called a high-key image when it's really bright. And you might also have a really dark black and white image with not much contrast, but only black or dark tones. Then will be a low-key image. And those are typical ways of using contrast in black and white. Then number 3, texture. Texture is an interesting element in a black and white image because it gives some life to different surfaces. If you have light and shadows there, you can really feel the surface of things, or have a texture as a known image. The whole idea of an image could be the texture, or it can be a part of a black and white image to add to the overall feel of the image. And before we go back outside, let's talk about the niche and the subject that black and white photography is at its best. Of course, the first thing, at least for me, is when we talk about black and white, is the classical street photography. It was invented at the time when that was the film that we had. Film was black and white. There was not really color films available at that time. So black and white was widely used, and that's why we have the impression that street photography is at its best when it's black and white. And there are certain things that makes that true. And some of that stuff I've already mentioned. Contrast, light and shadow, form. And that's why I think black and white for street photography is still quite valid. It kind of takes out the element of color and only leaves the subject in certain places so that the image looks really nice, which is called also the decisive moment. And that's why I think street photography is really good when it's black and white. And the second thing is portraiture, and it's about the same thing. When we take out the color, it's only the person and the light and the shadow and how it shapes the person's face. And you don't have the color distracting you there. You're just the person and the viewer. And of course, there has been the photographer before the viewer. And I think those are the main things. But of course, if we start talking about portraiture and color, it's totally fine. I'm not saying that. Because sometimes the colorful clothes might be a big part of the personality. And then, of course, if you take that out, it might be not the same person. So think about that too when you're using black and white in portraiture. But of course, every genre or niche can be photographed in black and white. There are no limitations, but those are just 2 that are quite obvious and the most common uses for black and white. What have you shot black and white? Landscapes is good. Have you done that? Please let us know in the comments down below. And let's get back outside. And then there is light, which is, of course, a very important ingredient in photography. Photography is a Greek word that it means drawing with light. So without light, there is only shadow or darkness. To get shadows, to get contrast, we need light. And there are several types of light. Okay, now it's really soft and dull light. But usually in black and white, you are also able to photograph in really harsh light, which is not usually recommended when doing photography because it's a nasty looking light. But in black and white, it can be striking. And that's why harsh light, then I would choose black and white in most cases. That is something that you also should think about and try black and white when there is really harsh light. And then we have different white balances or different color temperatures. And in black and white, it doesn't really matter that much what the color of the light is. They are more equal. Of course, there are some differences because some lights might have some odd colors, and that could affect how the tones differ in black and white image. So there is a slight importance in white balance, but in most cases you can just use any white balance and it'll be okay in black and white. And that's a really good thing. But look for the light, like always in photography, but especially with black and white, because you don't have the colors. You need to have shapes and contrast and light and shadow to make the image. And like always, there will be an extra tip after tip number 5. Filters are a bit obsolete in the world of digital photography because you can do it digitally, and I will talk about the digital filters later. But some filters are still needed, and those are ND filters and polarizers and maybe mist filters, and then light pollution filters are something that you might use when even in color photography. But black and white photography, filters are still used quite widely because, for example, red and green are exactly the same color if you photograph it in black and white. So how to separate those colors? Well, with filters. If you put a red filter, the red color will get brighter or more towards white. And that's why, for example, using a orange-yellow filter when photographing scenery or landscapes could be a good thing because it will darken the sky and it will separate the clouds from the sky. But if you don't have the filters, you can always use digital filters. There are two things. The first one is that at least Olympus cameras, and I believe many other cameras, have so-called built-in digital filters for black and white photography. You set the picture mode to monochrome or monotone and then choose the filter that you like, and it will make that color brighter. And when I was talking the first tip about pre-visualizing, this is exactly the way how to pre-visualize. Turn your camera to monotone and then use different types of filters if you want. Extra tip: post-processing. Image editing is a really important part of photography today. You like it or not. Like darkroom used to be, now we have Lightroom. And using HSL sliders, you can affect the colors the same way as filters do. So this is a great place to fine-tune your image. And there are some special softwares for black and white, and one of them is FilmPack from DxO. And that's a great software. It has film simulations from different era. It also includes some color films, but we're talking about the black and white. So you can copy the style of, for example, T-Max 100 or Ilford Delta. I'm not really sure how accurate these are because there's no way me to compare. And you can also adjust these to your likings to make your own presets, tweak these settings and make your own style. And I do have an affiliate link to DxO page where you can check out what the FilmPack is and does it work for you. I hope this video inspired you to make a better image for your 52 assignment black and white. And here are some more videos about black and white photography in my channel. But hey, thanks for watching and bye for now.